What is happening, people? Welcome back to the channel. KG is back, and we are back for a season preview. I'm looking forward to this season. I'm going to speak to my co-host right here, Conor from One Leeds fan channel, who's joined me for this episode. I did say I was going to try and get someone. I did get someone. You know, I give the call out to Conor. He says, "Cool, I got you, bro. I got you," and he does got me. So here he is. And Conor, how you doing, my man?
Oh, good, mate. Oh, good. I got the call from KG, and immediately, I think it was my quickest response of that day. You know, sometimes when you leave messages just unread, and then I saw yours come in, and I was like, bang, yeah, I'm on, mate. I'm on. So always excited to do these, mate. So good to see you.
Yeah, man. It just feels good. And it's nice to do one. And I'm going to get your thoughts because we've spoken before on your channel, but I want to see if it's still the same way for you. But it's nice to speak, even though even though we're in the championship for a second year. I think there's a bit of optimism. Shall we? Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that, mate. It does feel like that. I don't know about you, but I've got this mindset right now where it's like business. You know, it feels very like Bielsa second season in the championship. You know, and it was like it's just happening. Look, no more screwing around, no more Derby playoff semi-finals, none of that. You know, the famous Angus Kinnear quote of this season, we're not, screwing around sort of thing. We don't sort of live by that guy's quotes with the yellow kit and all that. But it feels very business-like, mate. It felt business-like at that point with Bielsa, and I'm 100% feeling that as well. Shout out to everyone in the chat as well.
Yeah, man. Shout out to everyone in the chat. And listen, just before we got to do the housekeeping, please like the video. Algorithm. Very important that you like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Drop your comments on anything discussed today. Thank you to Carl Howe, who's become a new member, and Hyru, who's become a new member. Thank you for the support. Much appreciated to all my existing members as well. Just goes a long way for the extra support of the channel. And if you want to join the channel, the link is in the description or is next to the subscribe button called join. So thank you for that, people. And listen, afternoon, evening, morning to everyone. So look, let's get into this, because obviously we fell short last season. Last season is last season. But what are the lessons that we need to learn for this year? I feel like with the transfer business we've done so far, and that's what we're speaking of as of the 7th of August, I feel like Daniel Farke has got a more rounded squad of who he trusts, and maybe even some of the players of last year, like Joseph, maybe even Gelhardt, if he's not going to leave. Maybe he trusts to use him more. What do you think that we need to do differently to ensure that we get that top 2 slot with this current squad?
I think you're right. I think there's more of a is the right word balance. I'm not sure, but there's definitely more goal contributions. I feel, I don't know. I know we've not discussed this on WhatsApp or anything, KG, but the Valencia game, I just really like what I saw from Rothwell. His contribution, I thought it was crisp. I thought it was quick. Decision making sort of on point. I wonder if he's going to hark back to the Blackburn days instead of the sort of Bournemouth and Southampton days, of which he's really struggled to get going. It feels like Leeds are going to give him a bit of a chance this season. I like that. Bogle, it looks like that sort of seemed to be a knock, but apparently they're quite confident he's going to be back for the weekend. I think there's 8 to 10 goal contributions there. The reason I mentioned those two is because I feel Rothwell can get on the score sheet a lot more than Kamara did. And, you look at Joseph, KG, and Verber and Aronson. For me, just those 3 in tandem are 3 new signings, mate. They're 3 new signings, like for me, yeah. But just in terms of like a new body and can they influence the side in X, Y, and Z way? Joseph in particular, But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Verber actually, because there's still a month left of the window, and I wonder how that's going to pan out. But
are you not confident he's going to stay?
About 50-50. Yeah, about 50-50, I think. And I think it'll depend on how we go into this season. I feel if we're playing a 4-2-3-1 and he's just sort of omitted from the side and on the bench, it's a far cry from being top 2, top 3 player in a Mönchengladbach side in the Bundesliga. So I wonder how that's going to work. But yeah, overall, KG, what needed to change from last season is an over-reliance on certain players, as we know. I think there is going to be a heavy reliance in build-up with a certain central midfielder who's just been outstanding, in central attacking midfielder, I should say, who's been outstanding in pre-season. But I feel like very, very, very importantly, KG, it's not just going to be the build-up that's going to be reliant on 2 players and the goals reliant on 2 players. I feel this season there's going to be a spread of goal involvements, which I think is a massive learning from last season.
Yeah, I think the same. The thing with this season, what I'm envisioning, and obviously proof will be in the pudding. I feel like we're going to be more defensively solid. Like we've got the attacking bodies. We know that, and we can discuss those. But I feel like Daniel Farke is going to want to learn off a more defensive base this season, and it just feels to me like he's going to get that bit right. We know that he doesn't like to embarrass teams anyway, so don't expect 6-0 or 7-0 anyway, because he doesn't like that. He's even said that himself.
Everyone calm down. We don't want to score more goals.
Oh yeah, I know. Imagine now. I don't like to embarrass the opposition. No, but meanwhile, QPR are smacking our cheeks 4-0, trying to get more. But it's all good. It's all good. But I do feel like you just look at our defensive options that we've got. Like you say, I don't know. I feel like Verba's going to stay. I feel like if him and Daniel Farke would have spoken, I think he would have said, look, Pascal is going to have that spot possibly to start, but there are going to be rotation options. Maybe if we've got a void at left back, you can fill in there until we get one. I don't know. I feel like he may stay. I think it all depends on what the offer Leeds get. And just on that as well, in terms of Leeds, I want to get your thoughts on this, because obviously we had the recent press release that Willie Gnonto had a bid rejected for him for 23 million. Fans finally get some clarity from the club that they've been begging for. But I don't know what, because I don't know what people have said to you. But for me, I got a whole load of, it's not enough. What, if does that mean they're going to accept 25? But these same people would have said before, oh, I bet Nanto's going to be sold for 20 million. But what did you get for that? Like, what kind of responses did you get for that?
Yeah, I got probably. I mean, me and you are very, very similar, aren't we? So I got a lot of similar vibes. It was. Yeah, it's sort of a lot of it took me sort of back to those Archie Gray days where Gray, was leaving. Eddie and Linda were disgusted. Harry was getting stripped from the academy and all this sort of stuff. It was mass hysteria again. So I had to really gauge the temperature on Monday morning. To be honest, Cage, it was sort of helped a lot by the Johnny Rowe interest, which I'm sure we might get into in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it was everything. I couldn't complain because it's what we'd been calling for. I'm a massive fan of the 49ers. I know you are. I think the big problem with them has been this communication, the Somerville exit clause, which I think as a fan base, we're a little bit like, wow, okay, what on earth has happened there? Like that's very out the blue. I don't feel like we need to know the specific negotiations. It's great that it's all in-house. I love that, but I do feel the communication with the local journalists needs to be stronger because the fan base, I think, rely on that a little bit. For every club really. So I would, sort of encourage them to be active on that front. But they've been burnt in the past, KG, haven't they, with putting out their information, and Leeds have been burnt when it's come to transfers. I think the last one of which Leeds didn't want to get out was the Max Aarons deal. It got out, and then suddenly Bournemouth were in. And so it's a real problem for them. And it's I think the issue with what it causes, KG, is because we don't know. Fans start to hypothesize and create scenarios of which hasn't got any foundation, but then it gets leverage because other fans are worried as well, and it turns into this melting pot of worry, of sort of a worried fan base. So sorry, go on.
And you see as well, and just on the journalists as well, you see with Graham Smith. I mean, people now quoting him saying, "Well, I thought there was no clause," but Graham Smith would have been told by someone that he trusts that there is no clause, and maybe that person doesn't deal with contracts, but that's the information that they would have known as best to them at the time. So Graham isn't putting out false information on purpose. It's just that it's so in-house that unless you know the person that does the contracts, you're not going to know what's going on. And you're right with the local journals. I mean, you've seen it, aren't you? I mean, we don't need to go into specifics, but no one's got a clue unless they're interviewing Farke or the players. There is no information coming out.
Yeah, it does. It feels like that, mate. And it was interesting how, me and you both worked in the media, and it was obviously embargoed for 7 a.m., of which you just saw like 3 tweets go out. Yeah. And it was interesting. And you just thought to yourself that the 49ers have got a grip on this, which is good. But I think, the narratives then get spun of, this is what they want us to believe and all this sort of stuff. So without any evidence or without any real pure communication, fans are going to continue doing this until they hear more of that. And I think it was a step in the right direction, keeping us in the know a little bit more.
Yeah, and someone left an interesting comment that I didn't even think of before. Maybe they said Jacob Smith is the guy that said it on my channel, but he said maybe they put out that we rejected 23, and that's showing that if we could have rejected Somerville's, if he didn't have the release clause, maybe we wouldn't have sold Somerville for 25, and that Gnonto is obviously going to be probably go for more. that's why we're saying that, look, Somerville went for 25, but it's because he had a release clause and stuff like that. So maybe they put it out in that way just to show their ambition to keep Nanto, or that they're not selling players on the cheap on purpose or anything like that. But I mean, we're not going to speak about I was going to speak to you about the Adam Pope thing, seeing as we're talking Leeds journals, but I'm going to hold off on that, Conor. And the reason why, let me tell you this now, because I put out something. I rarely do this as well. I rarely do it. I didn't put it out on X. I put it on my Insta. Just about, I put a screenshot of what they said, of what Popey said, and then I put all these things down as to what we know as fans anyway, from the outside looking in, what he did is term of his influence, the way that he treats fans and kids. He's always had time to sign for kids and fans. And then I got a response from somebody in the club with eyes.
Really?
I did, yeah. And I went, well, what are you saying? And all I'll say is that they said, I'm sure it will all come out. So I'm going to hold off on it for now, obviously, because I was going to speak to Conor about it, because it's a different point of view in terms of the wording used. But for me, unless it is something outrageous, like he slept with a fellow player's girlfriend or anything like that, if it is just that he's a confident guy and carries himself in that way, then there's a conversation to be had. But now that I've got some, further information from inside, I'm going to hold off on all, rhetoric on that just yet. Because, Popey got a massive backlash. So maybe he'll come out on his next edition and, elaborate. Because for me, when you put out quotes like that, you have to give specific examples.
Yeah, of course you do. And this, for me, this is the whole issue. And I was relatively vocal on it, because I said, I tweeted out and said, look, I quote tweeted him and said, based on what, pal? Because that's what you're saying. He's got attitude issues, okay. And then we spoke about it last night on the stream, and it's you've got attitude issues, okay. Well, what you have to then tell me what his attitude issues are. When there was the discussion and the discourse about Cresswell, we sort of knew the background of it being Richard, and obviously the stuff with Verba in the summer. He just wanted to move. It didn't seem there's any attitude issues there. But there's been conversations with Rafinha as well in the past, wasn't there? It seemed like fans had a pre-opinion of Rafinha before Brentford, and then post it was like, oh, he's the best thing since sliced bread. So I think when you're making these comments, especially on a platform like that, which is
huge,
cagey, it's bigger than we could ever dream of having. It is the biggest platform in the UK when you're looking at a conglomerate in the BBC. You have to back that up. I have to know why there are attitude problems, because if you don't tell me, you're naturally going to get a bit of the fan base and a good portion, to be fair, who are saying, well, why are you saying that? What's behind that? What and you've got to. So I think the clarity in the message has to be there when you say something like that, because people can get the wrong idea if what you're saying is correct.
Yeah, 100. And I mean, we won't go too much on that, but all I'll say in return to that as well is be consistent across the board, because we've had players that have come from Chelsea and, seemingly the next big thing, they're now playing in League One football. And there's been no stories as to why that's happened, where I've heard that, listen, turned up at Leeds United with a Mercedes and everything else in the bank, didn't have the hunger to do much else. And that's why, but you don't get the stories. And maybe it's because Somerville's a bigger star, bigger platform. So I get that part. But there are other stories where we've had some youngsters come through and have just slipped away and not fulfilled their potential because they got too much too soon. But listen, we'll park that one for now. We'll wait and see what the information is. But all I'll say as well is that I remember when Jed Spence got sent back and they did a real sabotage piece on it. But there's been, I can tell you for a fact, there was no problems at Genoa. Even Tottenham are now looking at him as a player for them.
Is that a really good preseason? Is that a really good preseason, doesn't he?
So even if it's being clarified, it all depends. Look, and just on the last thing on that, it's all about point of view, people, because some people like me, some people don't like me. So if you ask someone saying, oh, he always talks crap anyway, oh, actually, he talks real good stuff. It all depends on someone's point of view of how they perceive you. But yeah, Somerville's gone. So we've got a slot to fill. The Jonathan Rowe link is not going away. And I feel, I don't know how you feel with the 7 million bid, but it feels to me like it's like the Jaden Bogle thing, where we're putting in a lowish offer just to say, we're coming. We're coming. And it seems like the player wants it. It feels like to me like Jonathan Rowe's going to have to make a little bit of noise to Norwich to say, please let me go, and then maybe we can do a deal. I want to know what your valuation is that you would go up to get Jonathan Rowe if you would get him.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We always talk about valuations and stuff like that as if it's our money. You know, I wouldn't go to 15 because it's too expensive, as if we care. But yeah, I would be looking sort of, you know, if I'm being a financial guy, I'd be looking at sort of like 12, and maybe I'd probably push a little bit above when it comes to add-ons and stuff. The reason behind that is I've made it abundantly clear. He's very good on the left. He's very good on the right. He's only 21 years of age. He's been in the England setup his whole life. I think the sell-on potential, if that were to ever happen, is massive with Jonathan Rowe. Very different to Somerville, I feel, as a profile, but he scores a variety of goals as well, goals with his head as well, which maybe not a lot of people know. But he outperformed his XG last season, KG alongside Sarah and Morgan Whittaker in the top 3 in the division. And I feel
he outperformed his XG.
We've got to bring that one in, though, haven't we? But I feel with the amount of chances, if we're putting it in layman's terms, with the amount of chances he's going to get in this Leeds United side, if he's outperforming any XG, then I'm going to be a very, very happy bunny. So, yeah.
Wait. On that outperforming XG thing, I don't do the whole XG thing and things like that. If it's a chance, is it equal for Haaland and Bamford? You know, one of those. I don't know if they calculate that kind of thing. But if you've outperformed it, doesn't that mean that it's got the risk of coming down? Because I know in hockey, if someone's got a high shooting percentage, it means that they're shooting above their career average. So if they've scored 30 in 82 games, don't expect 30 next season. Probably expect it to go back down. Isn't that the same thing? No.
Yeah. That is the thing is with XGs, and the perfect thing you've put there is, it's like you've said there is, you know, let's say if Max Verber went through on goal, would he have the same chance of putting it in the back of the net if it was at a certain point in the pitch as a Matteo Joseph? Well, no, but the XG will be the exact same. So yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a very loose metric. However, you know, it seems to be the big thing nowadays. It seems to be the big quantitative metric. So yeah,
but he's a talent. But regardless of all that, he's a very talented player. And it's funny, Conor, because I got people telling me that he wasn't no good against us in the semi-finals, not realizing that he had just come back from a long-term injury from February.
And also, KG, just to ride off the back of that, you are quite correct. He came off the back of a massive injury, and throughout pre-season, he's been on fire. He's been abs. I think he scored 5 goals, got 2 assists. So he's back to where he was. You know, if you sort of taking pre-season as an indicator. So yeah, he'd be coming into this Leeds side as well. And I can't stand this whole rhetoric of pre-season not mattering for players. It really does my head in. But you know, if he comes back in and he's on that level as well, where he's just fit and firing, then yeah. So personally, answering your question, so I would go to 15 because I think there's so much there when it comes to Rowe. But sorry.
Hold on. 50 million, Conor.
Yep.
What if then it means that there's nothing left in the budget? Because you know finances are tight. What if it means that we can't then get a left back and another central midfielder? Are you still going 15 for Rowe?
No, because I think even with what we have now, we still have top 2, arguably, you know, best side in the division. So I think that's something that you've got to take into context. Obviously, there's been rumours of Hugo Bueno as well at Wolves, so that seems to have a few legs. I don't really know Central what's going on. It seems very, very quiet there all of a sudden.
The Lubicic's one's gone really quiet.
Very quiet. Yeah, it's almost like they put a 3.3 million bid in and then that was rejected. And unlike Bogle, KG, it was okay. That's it then. Yeah, they could be biding the time. There's 3 weeks left, but yeah, okay, yeah. If you're moving down and Leeds are able to, I don't know, get him for 8 or 9, and then you can spend, you know, almost that 4 to 5 million on wages when it comes to loans and bonuses when it comes to certain personnel coming in. Yeah, definitely. But if Leeds can, let's be honest, they're not going to go to 15. Like I just don't feel that's going to happen. Yeah. So
no, and that's the thing in regards to that with Jonathan Rowe, and I'll ask you this as well because I don't see him taking anyone's spot in the first 11. So I think it would be a case of him joining the squad. And if he impresses, maybe he keeps his spot. But does he start ahead of Nonto or Dan James for you? Actually, yeah, go on.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, the problem I have, the big problem I have with Rowe is I think he covers two problems, as in the left side and the right side, but I'm not 100% sure on the right side. If you know anything about Jonathan Rowe, he's as potent as he's on the left, which then throws up another massive problem because we saw Nonto last season on the right, but we've seen him on the left in pre-season, and we've all gone, okay, it feels a bit different here. So yeah, that's another problem. It's another conundrum when it comes to it. But I tell you what, KG, would be strong going forward, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And just in regards to that, because obviously you're thinking of Rowe, and it's a good fight, isn't it? If he's taken out James or Nonto, then we've got someone excellent on the bench. But in regards to the loan, because it's something I've mentioned on here before, but you've seen Alfred Gilchrist go on loan to Sheffield United, and we'll speak about our, I would say, promotion rivals. But I feel like we're in a bad position when it comes to like real good loans, because like he's mentioned, Hugo Bueno, Raksaki, these clubs want their players to play a majority of the games.
It's like a whole last season, isn't it? Like a whole last season.
Yeah. But coming into this thing, I don't think that the two players that we've mentioned there, Raksaki and Bueno, come in and play a majority of the games. And I think that's going to be a disadvantage to us in order to get those kind of players. What say you?
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, you see the likes of QPR strong in for, apparently it's going to be, they're looking at a permanent QPR, which I'm pretty sure Palace won't facilitate, but apparently they're going in strong for Raksaki, and you can see that, can't you? Him staying in London. Obviously, he's been on loan at Charlton Athletic before, London-based side as well. Does he sort of prefer that? That'll be interesting. But yeah, mate, in terms of just minutes, I think Hull were the big indicator of that last season. I think the big point of which Carvalho went there. Obviously, you saw Philogene go earlier on, but Carvalho, I feel, was the big one in January, where we're looking at it and going, Leeds, Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton. It felt like everybody was interested in Carvalho because there was an option there. And then suddenly, out the blue, Hull came in and it was sorted really quickly. And he went on to have a fantastic sort of last 3 months, 3-4 months with them. So it's a brilliant signing. But it was minutes, wasn't it? It was minutes. Yeah. Like, you can go to the big club and you can go to the bigger club, but what's the point? What's the point in having another Eddie Nketiah scenario if you're a parent club, or a Jed Spence scenario if you're a parent club? I mean, what was that development? Just on a topic for Jed Spence, playing a left side of a back four, and then obviously he goes to Genoa afterwards, has a really good end to the season. Then he's in pre-season on his favoured right side, as he was at Genoa, and he's developed a little bit. He's played his game. At Leeds, that was a complete wasted 6 months. So you've got to get it right, haven't you?
Yeah, waste of $1 million loan, and people forget we actually paid a $1 million loan fee for that Jed Spence thing, and I think that's why that piece came out in the Athletic, just to basically justify why the cost is being wasted, to put it more on him. Because as I said on my channel, if people really believe that Jed Spence is the only player in the whole of football that turns up late for training, then you don't know footballers. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But in regards to Daniel Farke, we know what, we've spoken about his deficiencies before: lack of tactical flexibility, which he seems to have fixed in the preseason. We'll see if it rolls on. Use of substitutions. Is the one thing that sees you, because I think we both agree we should finish champions, right?
Yeah.
Is the one thing that gives you pause, is it Daniel Farke?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's him. Yeah. It's him who is, for me, the biggest worry here. The biggest worry. I wanted to just do a bit of research on. I know a couple of guys down in the Norwich area, and I just asked them, was this a consistent theme? Was it misuse of substitutions? Was it timings? Was it a few fallouts? Was it lack of pragmatism? All of which aligned. Borussia Mönchengladbach, I actually went to a Square Ball article last season where they were interviewing 3 Mönchengladbach fans, and all of it aligned, KG. Every single bit of it aligned. Right. And they actually called him out there. I believe the translation might be wrong, but it was the Svartser, which basically meant like the talker. He talks too much. He's always he's always trying to cover his own back. There's always an excuse there. And I think that's my worry with Farke. It is, there's always sort of these sort of tendencies repeat themselves. The patterns and trends keep happening. And that is my major worry with him, to be honest with you. Like, are we going to fluctuate between a 4-2-3-1 and a 3-4-3? Maybe when it goes to home and away games, is that going to happen? Is he going to do that in game? I I still don't think he will. I still think maybe he was just trying a few things out in preseason. It's going to be a 4-2-3-1 because we always want an additional attacker on the pitch, and especially if we get Johnny Rowe in, we're going to want that additional attacker there, of course, and prioritize that stage of the field. But he's very lucky, KG. Very, very lucky at the fact that he's got the caliber that he's got. I mean, Max Ferber on the bench, look, Brendan Aronson, I've never been a fan at all. However, in the Championship, we've seen when these players have lowered down to Dan James, Junior Firpo, you've seen elevated levels. He's on the bench, a £30 million player if you want to put him up there. So he's got a huge, squad, a lot of depth, I feel, as well, still. We've replaced like for like. And there's no excuses for me, KG, and I'm passionately saying that here on KG Vision. There is no excuses for this guy, and I really hope the 49ers don't just say, "Oh, well, this is a long-term project. We're just going to go with it," because that would be a real problem. From my take on the 49ers as well.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understood. Listen, I was easy with either decision, whether we went with someone else, but it had to be someone better. I did not just want him to go just to get someone else and just say, we've changed the manager.
Yeah.
You needed to get someone better. But I completely understood the second year thing, not just because of the whole thing that we did with Bielsa, but I do believe that you've got to learn from the mistakes you made. Because I know that he put it on quite a few different things. He was talking about no experience, even though he never ever mentioned that before. We started to lose games. I just feel like he will have had to have learned something. And if he doesn't, the 49ers won't put up with it. But I hope he does have learned his lessons, kind of, because if we're changing managers, it means we're not doing what we should this season.
And I know this is a daft question, but presumably you think the same. You think the downfall this season will be, the manager. Obviously, I know we need a few bits in, don't we, in terms of personnel. But if we do get those players in, and like maybe two bodies, you're definitely looking at the manager. Is that sort of a similar thing with you?
Yeah, I looked at him last season, Conor, and it's not one of those where I said he's got to go. No, I didn't say that. I said that he's got to learn, because people keep talking about the difficult start to the season. And let's not go on to last season too much, but it was the last 2 in 9 wins. 2 wins in 9. You can't do that at the end of the season. And then you got other people saying about the Welsh lads were not up for it. But then Ipswich also had 4 or 5 Welsh players themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was always seems to be some kind of excuse. And I just hope that he's learned from that and goes again. But the 49ers will know that they can't get this wrong. So if it's not looking good under FARKE, then they're going to have to make that decision, even though they want him to be the long-term manager. And I understand that. Results dictate where you are in business. And you just think as well, we're coming to the start of the season. I'm excited for the season. I can't wait for it to get going. But all it will take, and you know how it is with football fans, especially our fan base, is Sheffield United to have a great performance against Preston on the Friday. And if we say draw against Portsmouth on Saturday, it was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And that's one game. And that's the case, isn't it, Conor?
Yeah, it is. Anyway, that's just on the One Leeds fan channel. But no, I completely agree with you. I think, but it's the anxiety again, KG. It's the fact that you need. We saw what happened last season. Is it the same level as last season? I would suggest not. I can't be completely sure, but you are hoping that Leeds can get off to a quick start in comparison to what it was last season. Last season was such a slow, stodgy, horrible start. Dropping points against teams of which we shouldn't be dropping points against.
Well, Conor, the first game last season said it all, where we had Yelder playing left back, Ayling right back, both from stinking out the joint, and Yelder gets yanked off at halftime.
Was it Cardiff or West Brom at the start of last season? I can't remember.
Wasn't it Cardiff at home?
Yeah, I think we're 2-0 down, weren't we? I think we're pretty sure we're 2-0 down, and it was the summer.
Let us know if it was Cardiff or West Brom. But either way, you got Yelder there, and then you never see Yelder again.
Yeah,
because, he stunk out the joint. And then
I agree with what you're saying, though. Even just you look at me and you don't rate really. I don't think you do anyway. But Russell Martin, and it was so easy for Martin. I know he had a good squad, but it was so easy for him, even on the second to last game of the season, to fluctuate up to a 3-4-3 and sort of people forget that game. They sort of dominated it, and then he went to the playoff final, 3-4-3 again, and it was 4-3-3, wasn't it? Sorry, 4-3-3, 4-3-3. Didn't he Smallbone, a Rebo, and Flynn Downs in there, and it was just so easy, wasn't it? And that's the problem, isn't it? It's, you know, as a manager, you're tasked to think of different gameplays, you know, think of different ways of beating your opposition manager. And for a novice, with the greatest of respects, in Russell Martin, to have done what he did to him 3 times, it's, you know, and Lee's not really being the game against a promotion rival. I just think, you know, he's got to learn from that.
Yeah, he had his number, and I've said it on here before, but I don't know if you watched Russell Martin's pre-match press conference for the 200 million player final. He was relaxed. He said, what we've done well against Leeds before, we'll do again, and anything that we didn't do well, we'll improve on. And he did exactly that. And that was a problem, because obviously we knew with Danny FARKE's team sheets as well, it was a running joke on the channel. We know what it's going to be. It's going to be the same one as the last game. Yeah. And that's something that he's going to have to utilize, because he didn't utilize the squad properly. So hopefully, please, Daniel, please learn from that, because if you do, we are finishing top 2. Because if you look at, let's look at, just quickly have a quick, you know, chat about our promotion rivals. I saw a Norwich video last night, and one of them in the video said that they were going to be promotion rivals. Then the other guy said to him, we're not. So, you know, at least there's one realistic. But talking about Luton, I don't know what it is. I know a few of my subscribers think they're going to be strong. I don't know what it is. I don't see Luton as a championship threat to me. And maybe it's just because I look at their squad, and it is a championship squad to me. Right? They did well going up, but I liken it to the Huddersfield thing, where they went up, they did well, and then they get relegated the second year. But for me, it's the same thing with that. I think that they've just got good championship players. I'm looking more at Burnley. I'm looking more at Sheffield United and thinking, okay, Sheffield United are just about to sign Alfie Gilchrist on loan. They could be getting Raksaki themselves, because they've got a gap on that side. You know, they've got Kiefer Moore in, Callum O'Hare. They're building something there. And they've signed
Harry Suter,
centre half, Harry Suter as well. So I'm seeing the threats there. Who do you think are the biggest threats to push us out of the top 2?
Yeah, and Harry Suter is so Chris Wilder. It is unbelievable. Yeah. It feels like you won't have done, because you have a life and I don't. But I have watched a couple of Sheffield, you know, because when you're clicking on the Sheffield United stuff, you suddenly get that in your algorithm on Twitter, don't you? So anytime I scroll down, I'm seeing Sheffield United this, Sheffield United that. But I've seen a couple of Wilder interviews. There's something about him this season, KG. He's got this. There's a bit of a bite back. There's a bit of a bite at him again, and you know, he's talking about how he can't wait to get going. And obviously, he bombed in his last couple of roles, but it feels like he's got a little bit of something back. And not only that thing we can't mention, but as Jeffrey's just said there, Harrison Burrows, we've spoken about him before, top signing. Harry Suit was one out of nowhere, and you just know 6'8". He's going to be a monster at set pieces.
Championship pedigree. And that's the thing with Sheffield United. They're signing players that I personally wouldn't want at Leeds. But I think you'll understand what I'm saying here, Conor. It will work at Sheffield United under Chris Wilder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We could have a conversation about under Heckingbottom if it'd work, but under Wilder, you know exactly how they're going to play. So yeah, I think a lot of their signings have been smart signings. O'Hare on set pieces, Harry Suter in the middle with Kiefer Moore. You know, they're going to get a lot of goals from those type of areas as well. And I think Sheffield United, I'll be honest, KG, probably around about 2.5 weeks ago, I didn't have them in the sort of the top 4, 5. I think I still had them in the playoffs, but just sort of scraping in with the Wilder factor. But now you look at the squad, you look at the makeup, and they've made a lot of, I think, really, really intelligent signings. Luton's an interesting one. Probably what's giving them a little bit of from general football fans is the fact that they sort of overperformed, even though they got relegated, but they overperformed by their standards last season. I think nobody expects them to even get a point in the Premier League. Adebayo, Carlton Morris, I think will be good at this level. Alfie Doughty, but
Alfie Doughty, yeah.
I think they'll be decent at this level. But mate, losing Ross Barkley out of that nucleus, I think is going to be absolutely massive and could hurt them quite a bit, to be honest with you.
And just quickly back on Sheffield United, speaking of that kind of player, they still have Gus Harmer, which is annoying me. Need him out of here, because he, for me, not as smooth as Jorginho, not as silky as him. But you said set pieces. If Callum O'Hare gets to get the ball off Harmer, then he's done well, because Harmer is so good on set pieces, open play, got a hammer of a shot. I mean, it's ridiculous. Just like the way that him and Ben Brereton Diaz stood out in that Sheffield United team. obviously it wasn't hard, but you know what I mean. They were levels above, and it would be a real coup if for Sheffield United if they get to keep Harmer, Abmasavskic as well. I think I've said that wrong, but he's a good centre half. I would expect him to leave.
Yeah, I thought
But
he'd moved on.
yeah, I mean he's still there at the minute, but he's always had interest from Serie A. That's why I look at Sheffield United and go, God damn. Chris Wilder, don't try nothing this year. You know, we don't want to do that back and forth with Sheffield United like we did a few years ago.
We need talking about, well, obviously moving on, pivoting to Burnley as well. Let's hope someone pips Sanderberg. We've got a red side of Manchester potentially looking at him.
Honestly, what a link! I mean,
yeah,
that is insane. I mean, I remember. I think was you a Sanderberg fan a few years ago?
Yeah, big fan.
We was getting told from some of our fans when we had players like Forshaw and Click in there that Sanderberg is no good. Fast forward a few years. I mean, look, Man United's recruitment is very spotty, but it's still Man United, whatever way you want to shape it. If he manages to get a move there, it's like, wow, well done to you, Mr. Berger, and enjoy that move.
Yeah, maybe maybe Solskjaer still give me some advice. Who knows, that Norwegian
more than likely. Is your man Josh Brownhill still there?
Still going to be player of the season, mate. You watch.
Guys, this guy loves Josh Brownhill, man. He's like Zabby to him, man. He loves him. But yeah, Burnley. And you look as well. I mean, Manuel Benson didn't get much of a kick in the Prem, but at this level, he's gonna be sharp. Is Trafford still there, or did he get a move?
I think he's still there, isn't he? I think he's still there. Yeah.
And I think this level will be more his level because the Premier League swallowed that kid up. Like he was getting peppered.
It was a weird tactic they went up with, wasn't it? Company just sort of like said to himself, all right, well, we're not going to change our style of play. And it's like, well, okay, there's genuine outliers of where that doesn't happen. Bielsa being definitely one of them. Wilder when Sheffield United went up and finished, I think, 9th. And they sort of continued.
And Postecoglou currently for Tottenham. He's Bielsa to me.
Yeah, 100%. So it's one of those where like these teams go up and they don't really change the style of play, but it's rare that you're able to survive. But for some bizarre reason, Company thought that they'd still play with that sort of like below mid squad, and it really didn't work for them, did they? Needed to adapt. But they're going to be interesting, man. I mean, I put Parker in the same bracket when it comes to a manager as FARKE. I mean, I've heard loads of people say, I've heard a lot of people say, I'm not going to do anything with Parker. Well, Parker's got 2 promotions. Daniel Farke's got 2 promotions. They've both arguably in between gone to the continent and failed, and they've come back. So there's a lot of similarities there between FARKE and Parker. So
big time. I've called him the German Scott Parker because they are just so similar in quite a lot of things they do. And you even saw the way Parker left Bournemouth that time when they got battered by Liverpool. No self accountability. It's now we haven't been backed. These players can't expect to do that. You just put it all on the board and on everyone else. And
do you have any more sort of like outliers, KJ? I've just seen Richard Todd speak about West Bromwich Albion this year, and obviously that's just going to be fueled. They can't. Richard with West Brom, I think they're a bit they're a bit hamstrung by financial. They're not able to spend right now. I think he's cleared a lot of the debt, the new guy, but they're not able to spend. But it's Corbrand, isn't it, KJ? We'll wait and see how he sort of stinks out the joint but gets wins.
Well, we'll see with West Brom, because I mean I highlighted them a couple of days. No, was it a week ago on my stream? And I didn't mean to be so mean, but I was looking for their business because their parachute payments are done, and I just wanted to point out to people what your team starts to look like when the parachute payments stop. And I was going to the Devante Cole signing as a striker and them getting all excited about it. I'm like, yeah, that's what we're getting excited about. And plus they lose Conor Townsend to Ipswich. They lose he's gone back to Turkey. That's what happens. And that's what I was saying in regards to West Brom. And I think Kipria has gone as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah.
So that's what happens to your team. So I don't see West Brom in that kind of mold. It's hard. You know what? It's hard to say with this Championship league, because I thought last year the league was poor, and without Leicester and Southampton, for me, it's even worse this year. So I'm not looking really beyond, and maybe it's short-sighted than the promoted teams, but do you have an outsider of those that you think could be a threat? And listen, anyone else in the chat as well? Anyone else?
Yeah. It's funny we were talking. You mentioned Norwich, KG, and you'll probably laugh at me for this, of course, but at the start, sorry, about sort of like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they were making some noises. They brought in Cordoba, who's highly rated as a centre back. It looked like, you know, obviously this is the thing about getting too into the window, isn't it? It's Sarah, Johnny Rowe, Borja Sainz, Marcelino Nunes, you know, obviously Josh Sargent at this level. I have to say with Sargent, I thought they could be a bit of a problem when it came to continuity. Got rid of a lot of the fringe players, but them just getting absolutely hammered by Sarah going is massive. And then potentially
big.
Johnny Rowe coming to us is huge as well. There's now rumblings about signs as well, being potentially interested in leaving. So that's the problem, isn't it? We can make, and I think I titled the video early preseason predictions, but I could have made them. But like, you know, 2 weeks goes past and it's like, well, the squad's just been butchered. So, and that's, you know, as you've quite rightly said about parachute payments, you know, you fall out of those parachute payments, of which Norwich just have as well. Yeah, it becomes dry for you. So the other team I would do, I know there's a lot of people who are saying it in your comment section. I'm not going to be a maverick with this, but it's Coventry. I think Mark Robbins is one of the best managers in the division. Their recruitment just seems to be bang on every single season. Eccles, Sheaf, Van Ewick. It just, you know, obviously Jokerej, Hamer, O'Hare. It just seems like they get it right constantly. So Coventry, I think they're in those, and I think as a Cov fan, you'd be very, very
Ellis Sims as well. Ellis
Sims had you right, you know, in terms of just building and building and building and building. And at some point, you're going to get to that point if your recruitment model is like it is, where you're gonna 100% challenge. And they've been close before, haven't they? So they're probably mine.
Yeah. So listen, someone's got to take their recruitment team, man. Someone's got to take it away, because you're right, man. That way of talent spotting is so. It's almost like Brentford a few years ago, where they'd lose a player and then Mbuemo comes in. Oh, we've lost Mope. Here comes Watkins, or you know, here comes Tony. That's just sensational recruitment.
And I'm also not. Michael Brown just said it there. I'm not a massive fan of him. I don't think he's all of what people big him up to be. But you just know at Coventry City, when it's Thomas Asante, obviously West Brom striker, he'll probably do really well there. So they just seem to just keep going when it comes to these signings. So they're going to be a problem, aren't they?
We'll see how their team looks, because like with others, I mean, Van Erwijk, if they get to keep him, I mean, that's the benefit of being like a team like Coventry, because if we had Van Erwijk, he would not be here in the second year.
I would bet Sheaf would be gone as well.
Are you a big fan of him as well? Yeah,
I like Sheaf in the middle.
Yeah. They've just got a good solid team. So maybe Coventry being an outsider, but it goes back to us now. And when you look at our team, player for player, every team is going to have a deficiency. For me, I would have loved a new goalkeeper. That's just me. But every team is going to have a deficiency. But I just look at our player. And when I look at us having Dan James, Mateo Joseph being unleashed this year, Nanto in his spot back on the left, Jorginho still being here. Please stay, Jorginho. Rothwell coming in to dictate things from central. Ampadu back in midfield. Strout, Roden, Bogle. I just can't look past what we've got in this division. I just can't.
Can we take a collective agreement here that if Bamford gets back in the side, we will just quit our YouTube channels until we get Joseph back in? Can we just make a collective pact here? Because I don't think I can stand it. And I know you can't either.
Well, listen, you know me, that I don't like talking about him just because he doesn't fill me with any joy, and it kind of brings my mood down. But look, someone in the comments yesterday said,
just to me too.
It honestly is depressing, because for me, it's not a conversation anymore. It shouldn't be. He shouldn't be here. But one thing I will say in his defense is that he's got a very comfortable contract. And look, you're always going to get marked down for him being here. So you'll never get a 10 window while he's here for me. But if we made moves to try and move him and he said no, that's his prerogative. He's got that right to do so. But I think the more realistic option is that we get rid of him in next summer, when he's only got a year left, and it's easier to buy out the contract with 1 year, isn't it? So even though I'm going to hate seeing him appear, I think he is going to appear. But like I mentioned on your channel, and I think you're in agreement, give Joseph the keys, give Perot his chances, and don't have the shadow of Bamford. Like, if you have 2 bad games, Bamford's coming back in, where he'll probably have 2 good games, have 5 bad ones, but still start. That's what we've got to get out of.
I know your chats. I absolutely love your chat, by the way. It's a very intelligent bunch, which I'm a massive fan of.
I've cultivated that way. I've cultivated it that way. You know? Shout out to my community. I love you.
Just banned anyone who mentions Bamford. I like it. I like the strategy. But yeah, I can just see, a lot of people sort of, having this sort of same opinion. And, I've just seen Jeffrey there say, Alex Cairns is a replacement. Unfortunately, mate, that's not going to happen because we've got Eli Melee now as the vice captain. So that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right, man. I think it's good. And you bring Rowe in, and you've obviously got Aronson there. You got James. I mean, a lot of people are saying to me, "Oh, you don't like James. You don't like James." Oh, well, I like James. I would much rather, even if we start with Rutter on the right, that would be, exponentially better for me. And then, Perot in the middle, or, Rowe coming in, Rowe on the left and Nonto on the right, and Rutter in the middle. Yeah, I think you've got a few options there. James would definitely be. James would definitely be there. Of course he would, and I'm very, very happy to have him there.
Man said James will be there like he's just some little throw in there, this is Dan James you're talking about here. Eh?
Yeah, but on a techie level, come on, we know where we stand with DJ. But yeah, no, I like him, but
I said it last year when we first got relegated, and a lot of people in the chat were basically saying what you're saying. But I was saying, look, this is the Championship. It's pace, power.
Yeah.
That's his game. You're not looking for finesse from Dan James. You're looking for him to cause problems for the defense, like I think Aronson will do for us this year as well. But with Dan James, he did improve his final product a bit at this level, and that's what coming down to this league has done for a few of the players. And Dan James benefited off that. And if he does get good game time, I do see him surpassing his numbers from last year. Do you or no?
Sorry, we're just doing a little. There we go. Got the washing getting done. Sorry. Do I see him surpassing it? Yeah, man. I mean, once again, I think when we've got this overall goal contribution, we've got Bogle now on the right. I think Firpo's looked really impressive again, KG, in pre-season. Just seems to continue the form, of which I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy he's turned this around, and I'm so happy he can remain on the pitch, because dependable and being dependable and reliable are two of the major assets in football, aren't they? Which are overshadowed. I think having that as two wing backs, I think the goal contributions from those two are going to be huge. As I mentioned, Rothwell. The balance in midfield is going to be interesting. I don't know about you, but the Valencia game, I don't know why I focus on midfield. I always focus on midfield. I always have done. But even when Crew came on, man, just his touches, his intelligence in play, when to open his body, when to close his body, the right moments. I just thought decision making again. I just thought I loved watching Charlie Crew. And once again, it's the hierarchy of the midfield again. I like Gruev, but Gruev does a job, but I think you can extract a lot more from the midfield pivot, with the options that we have right now. So, yeah, I just see the squad as more balanced. I see the squad with more quality, dare I say.
Yes. Overall, and listen, that's not to discount Somerville, but it's something that I said, that we're going to lose some real good players. But if you can balance out the squad and get more involvement from other players, it will not replace Somerville, but it will make us more better rounded squad overall.
Yeah.
I think that's what we've got with Kamara going, Rothwell coming in. Jaden Bogle, just is the way that he doesn't need to overthink things on the right, because it wasn't Archie's position. So we're being fair to Archie there. Bogle, instead of taking 2-3 touches, will just volley that thing first time, and someone like Joseph will be in that area to get on the end of it. And that's what I think. I feel like we're going to be a lot more fluid with the current squad that we've got, but we've got to keep everybody, of course. So just quickly now before we exit. Oh, and just on Charlie Crew, by the way, I completely agree. And the fact that he's going to get time, even though it may not be as much as like Archie Gray, don't think it's going to be anywhere near that. But that's a good player to have in reserve. And even with Debayo, if he's going to be our fourth centre back,
Look good.
Yeah. Again, he looked good in pre-season. And if he's your fourth choice, because we're not going to get Amobamidele to come in as our fourth centre back. He's not going to go from Forest in the Prem and go, you know what, I'll just be your fourth choice.
Do you know what, Cage, against Valencia, I really like the fact that Debayo, he seems flexible enough to go on the right side of a back three as well. That's another little thing.
And I think Daniel Farke trusts him, which is obviously the most important thing, as we saw with lack of trust with like Charlie Creswell last year. But just quickly looking to the Portsmouth game, we haven't heard from Daniel Farke. That will be tomorrow, people, where he's doing his press conference. But have you got an early score prediction for Portsmouth?
I have, mate. Yeah, I think they're going to be stronger than people think. You know, coming up from League One, they had a really, really good season. You know, last season they haven't got. This is testing my ball knowledge, but apparently they've got a player called Bishop who's not available, who's one of their top players from last season. I can't profess to know anything about the Portsmouth starting 11, aside from the fact that Matt Ritchie signed last night, which sort of blew me away, to be honest. But yeah, I would probably go with a 3-1 victory, mate. Comfortable. Should have had more, but welcome to the Championship, Portsmouth, I'd say. What about yourself, bud?
Yeah, I'm actually, I wasn't going to go 3. I think it's going to be more 2-1. I think it's just going to be, I think Portsmouth, it's that first game of the season, you know, for a promoted club. I think they're going to be up for its Ellen Road. And, you know, there's always going to be pressure for us to play. I would love to get more goals, but I think it's just going to be a bit of more of a tight affair. I'm going to go currently, as before we hear from Danny Farker anyway, 2-1. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah. Let's hope, touch wood, there's not any sort of unforeseen problems. I'd love to. I mean, I think Byron would survive in this game. I think he'd survive, obviously, but I don't know. I just love to see the season get started with Jayden Bogle at right wing back. That'd be great. You know, him and Firpo, that balancing act on either side. That'd be nice to see.
Yeah, it would be great. It would be great. And I'm like we say, people, at this point in time, as we have to keep saying, the transfer window is not closed. We are looking forward to the season. We are looking forward to it. But people, thank you, Conor, for joining me for this season preview. It's been a pleasure, man.
Anytime, bud. Anytime KG calls, I'm there. So
guys, thank you for watching. Oh, let me just before we go, Laporte, thank you for the super sticker, my man, or woman, they, them, whatever you are. Thank you. So yeah, people, thank you for watching. Please like the video before you go. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Drop your comments, and I'll see you in the next stream, people. Peace out.